Metta on opening the sutra. The Dharma incomparably profound and infinitely subtle is rarely encountered even in millions of ages. Now we see it, hear it, receive and maintain it. May we completely realize the Tathagata's true meaning.
Good afternoon, everybody. In my sort of pre-planned my scheme, it's time for me to talk about the third case of 3 in a series in the Blue Cliff record. It has to do with words. However, that's not the talk that wants to happen today, so okay, so be it. For those who wonder, every teacher I've known approaches this task of having to give a talk, as some here know also. You have to approach it your own way. For me, a nap is central to my plans, to my preparations. And I always, when I can, I have some ideas that I think might be what the talk wants to be. And I'll try to lay down, and even if I can't fully sleep, I'll go into a very, very restful space. And if I'm lucky, I'll actually sleep. But then, as awareness returns, it's incumbent upon me to pay particular attention to what's there, that liminal space between deep sleep and wakefulness. It's easy to just sort of gloss right through it, with a wake-up bell, for example. But you don't have to. I heard the same wake-up bell everybody else did. I'm just sharing my process. I will, how do I say it? One can feel oneself coming back to daily consciousness, and I try not to forget to touch where I'm coming from and to see what I can gather from that space. And I pay attention to that. Not literally all the time, but often. And in this case, I awoke with the scent of Master Sung Song's Relying on Mind very, very strongly with me. And hence I feel perhaps of use to you. Because you see, encountering barriers, right? Encountering barriers is inevitable. Absolutely inevitable. The manner with which you encounter them, however, is workable. The fact is that it is not only session participants that encounter barriers in the world. It's happening all the time with everybody, any sentient being, actually. I think it was this morning, I was in the dark to make my way from the abbey to the temple for the morning rites, and the outdoor light is on, and there's bugs flying around it. It's February at the time of this talk, right? One doesn't expect to see mosquitoes or bugs flying around the porch light in February. And yet there they were. Because, it's been in the 60s yesterday, I think it was. So those little critters are going to encounter some barriers. Unless they don't, but I think they will. So everybody gets a full dose. And sometimes we can get the idea that what's supposed to happen at retreat is you are supposed to have a barrier-free space to just relax and recharge and refresh, a massage and a bath and a mani-pedi, perhaps. But this is obviously a mistaken view. This is not what happens, But somehow, when we come to sesshin, there can be a surprise that a barrier has arisen. I'm here on retreat. This is hard. This is not easy for me to get here, to have the time and the space, and I've done all this heavy lifting to get here, and now I got to deal with this? Yes. And this, whatever that is not something different from the sesshin. That's what the sesshin is for you at that moment. Whatever it is that rises during sesshin is exactly what you need to deal with. You can rely on that. Now, we don't set about the business of trying to manufacture these barriers. It's not like the black robe ones are sitting up late at night trying to set traps, designing ways to make trouble for everyone, some dark-robed agenda. But, we don't need to do that. No, it's just going to happen, honey. It's just going to happen. You're going to show up, and guess what? You're going to bring you with you. And that's what's at play here. See? And so, at sesshin, we end up encountering barriers. We end up encountering edges, sometimes we say. What is the edge of your practice? What are barriers that you're dealing with? Where's the conditioning that's showing up? And so there's this strange seeming, until you kind of get inside the heart of the thing, there's this strange seeming contradiction between, if we just did everything right, if we get it all mapped and all figured and everybody was on exactly the same page and did everything the right way at the right time for the right reasons, would there be no barriers for you at sesshin? The answer is, first, you're never going to get that to happen. But even if you could, no. Because essentially, we set everything up to be just so, and we pay a lot of attention to it so that you have a clean, direct collision course with your barrier. No distractions, no toys, no glitter, just wrong. You get on the track and go in that direction, and the train is coming. And that's what we want. That's what you want. What you want is you want to encounter that barrier kind of on your terms, right? You're showing up to religious and spiritual, contemplative and mystical training and practice, not as an escape, but as a way to confront, to deal with the aspects of your life and the aspects of yourself and the world that need dealing with. So I hope you're getting a good share and a good dose. If you feel left out, let the leadership know. But it's a tricky thing because we think, oh, this is asceticism here. That's what this must be. We're just trying to muster through and deny ourselves with some extreme thing. This is not extreme. There's snacks. There's cozy beds. There's nap time. But it is rigorous. So what are we doing? It's kind of like an adaptive asceticism, I guess. And the asceticism is not one of self-punishment or anything negative. It's simply letting go of the distractions and the toys. How much of your day gets spent deciding, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I'm going to be here, I'm going to be there. I'm going to think this, I'm going to think that, right? If you take those kinds of decisions away and say, I am now practicing this schedule, right? Sesshin is basically like a multi-day long ritual. That's what it is. Stages and acts, scenes, days. But it's a big practice. But if you really let yourself connect with it, you give up a lot of your decision making. What time am I going to have lunch? What shall I have for lunch? And that's, by the way, that's not just for the newest person in the room. It's the same thing for the abbot and everyone in between. We all take up the practice of the rule or of the schedule for the benefit of everyone involved. Like all of us, everybody. And we do everything we can to make this accessible and to be accommodating. But you do have to be confronting that barrier. It gets fuzzy, if you end up saying, well, a little of this, a little of that, maybe not so much here, not so much there. And suddenly you've made a kind of a Buddhist nest where you're kind of safely padded from having to actually confront your own mind. Because after all, it's me. And the schedule doesn't apply. The training method doesn't apply. So we have extremes here. One is you can just sort of throw yourself huskily into the schedule minute by minute, do it perfectly, and completely hide doing that. That's not working either. Or you can try to give yourself escape hatches at every turn for reasons. And that's not doing it either. So this middle way thing, right? You want to actually take yourself seriously and do it in a way that's healthy and safe. These things don't have to fight each other. You just have to be adult about it. Because I guarantee you, the barriers that I'm talking about, if you don't know what I'm referring to, it's very personal when it happens to you. It feels surprising. It feels all the feels, all of them. But this is the thing. This sesshin is a mirror for us all to be able to encounter that stuff. That stuff does not just appear when you come into the temple. It doesn't even just appear when you sit in Zazen. Your mind, dear one, is doing that all the time. You're just slowing down enough to notice it, perhaps for the first time. And hopefully, all your digital devices are safely put the hell away. And I really hope that, because your reflex will be to go and scroll or do something. But the great wisdom of the tradition is stop doing all the somethings. We have bare necessities that we need to do. We need to eat, we need to rest. We take care of those things. But if you go through the session just checking the box and doing all the things, even if you're doing it like from an outward perspective completely correctly, whatever that is, you could still be hiding there. Do you understand? So it really gets down to, after you're in position and the last bell has rung and nobody's watching you except the monitor who has an eye, okay? It's really about you and the Dharma. And this is not a game. At that moment, when the last ring of the last bell fades from your ability to hear it, what do you do? I mean, interestingly, you can be kind of an old hand and kind of find little ways to coast. And I really hope that if you find yourself doing that, you see it, acknowledge it, let it go, and stop coasting. Because coasting won't do it. Coasting is just another action. There's an interesting quote from the Tao Te Ching, the wisdom tradition indigenous to Japan, one of them, Confucianism being the other main one. It says, "Those who pursue learning gain something every day. We who pursue the Tao lose something every day, loss after loss, until we reach nothing to do. Not doing, yet nothing is not done." Non-doing. What do you do when the barrier shows up? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? Are you doing? Be very careful about this doing. What is non-doing? And yet, things get done. Master Sung Song received from Huiko, who was a successor to Bodhidharma. Bodhidharma being the great sage of India who brought the Dharma to China. It was pretty early on in the transmission from the Indic culture to the Sino-Chinese one. We think he died somewhere in the early 7th century. He said this: "The supreme way is not difficult. It just precludes picking and choosing. Without yearning or loathing, the way is perfectly apparent. While even a hair's breadth difference separates heaven and earth. To see the way with your own eyes, quit agreeing and disagreeing. This battle of likes and dislikes, that is the disease of the mind. Misunderstanding the great mystery, people labor in vain for peace. But mind has the totality of space. nothing lacking, nothing extra. It's just selecting and rejecting that make it seem otherwise. To set what you like against what you dislike is the disease of the mind. Now you need to hear this in a mature way. I'm not talking about go and eat poison because you're not going to make a distinction between things anymore because you're enlightened. No, you're just being dumb. But seriously, after the last ring of the bell has faded and you're sitting, and it's game time, setting what you like against what you dislike is the disease of the mind. You must free yourself from this unexamined clinging. And when these barriers arise, they have to do with liking and disliking, don't they? Oh, I like a good Dharma talk. It's so wonderful when a Dharma talk is great. It's fun, it's exciting, it's the best part of the day. I love it, and oh, the talk's over. It was a good talk. I'll just keep that feeling, and then where's the feeling? Or I hate the talk. It's the worst part of the retreat. Would he just shut up? It's getting in the way of my sitting. I got to sit there and listen to this drivel. In this moment, my practice is to speak and your practice is to listen. That could very well change at any minute. But right here and right now, that is our practice. Time, position, place, and degree. Clinging is a mistake anywhere in the mandala. I've had occasion recently to reflect on the teachings that Buddha gave his own child, Rahula. I think I brought this to the Sangha's attention some months ago, but it lingers. Imagine yourself as Buddha, that Buddha I mean, and your own son comes to you, your child comes and seeks to ordain and ask for the teaching. And you have some sense this may be one of the last times you're ever going to see your own kid. What would you teach them? They're in the right place. They're asking. They're not assuming anything. It's very interesting what the Buddha chose to teach. He pointed to the elements. It's very interesting to me. Now, when you encounter something that you like, you think you had a breakthrough with your koan because I passed you. You fool. Or you encounter something you dislike. You don't want to be on dish crew at this meal, and yet you are. Just to pick easy examples. Consider the earth. When you feel that push and pull of like and dislike, do you like your body the way it is? Do you dislike your body the way it is? When you're left alone after that last bell has rung, it's you and that body. How about it? This body thing is not for the faint of heart. Have you noticed yet? The earth, the way we experience it is unmoved. If I take in my hand a handful of pure gold, and I take in this hand a handful of pure rust, precious, profane, let's say, and if I take these two things and I drop them on the earth, The earth does not shrivel from one and embrace the other. The earth is unmoved, profoundly rooted. It simply allows the gold to land, and it allows the rust to land equally. You see? This is earthiness. This mountainous receiving equally. To set what you like against what you dislike is the disease. Oh, I like the gold, I don't like the rust. But the earth, she teaches us something different, doesn't she? Whether it's spring rain or urine from a deer, the earth receives equally. Do you? When that last bell sound has faded and you're in the period of sitting, the sounds you like, you dislike, the temperature, the lighting, the incense smelling, your body, the contents of your own mind, the feeling from the Sangha, the way the server brought that bowl lingers in your memory. Did you like it? Were you offended? Be like the earth. Then water. If you think about water, say I have pure rain and urine, and I drop them into the ocean. The ocean's moving, but what it does is it disperses. It doesn't hold on to anything, it disperses it. A happy wedding on a yacht somewhere, and the couple takes a bottle of really expensive, wonderful champagne, world-renowned, and they take some and they toss it over as a toast, and the ocean doesn't go, "Oh, goody," and holds it. The champagne hits the ocean and it immediately is dispersed. Do you understand? The wonderful, great thing is received, but it's dispersed. Or the less desirable liquid goes over the side of the boat. Ocean does the same exact practice. Earth is unmoved. Gold, rust. That's one. The water receives and disperses. It comes, dispersed. And again, I'm talking about you when you're sitting there in Zazen and you don't feel like sitting anymore, or you feel like it's the best period of Zazen in your whole life. Gold, rust. You must give yourself the experience of untethering yourself. Is it gold? Is it rust? Fire is something else. Fire is something else. Say I have, I don't know, $100 bill and a scrap of old newspaper. What does fire do? It uses them as fuel. It uses it as fuel. There's a way that you can encounter the barriers that you are unmoved. This is good. There's a way to encounter the barriers where you disperse them. The shock doesn't hit you. It's dispersed and then grounded, let's say. But there's also this fire business about using what's going on as fuel. In the Tibetan tradition, there's a great value on the peacock as an image of this, because the peacock will be able to ingest substances that to other creatures are poisonous. But it takes in that poison and makes this beautiful plume thing with it. That's where all the bright colors come from, the toxins. Like the bright red of a fire ant kind of thing. So this image of using the poison as actually nourishment to make the beauty. This is something of the quality of fire. Don't perceive fire as just destructive or warm. I mean, can be those things, but from this perspective, what can you do with the barriers that you are encountering, which are tailored for your behind, by you, by your karma, causes, and conditions? How can you use that? For example, when you're sitting in Zazen and the ring of the last bell has faded and you notice that you're fading too, do you know how to use that? Is the answer to just smack yourself on the chin and tell yourself to man up, quote unquote? No. Is it to just give up and cower? No. How do you use it? You've seen that this has occurred. How will you use it now? Air. What does air do when it encounters our gold or our iron? It just keeps right on flowing. Yeah. Air goes right around the barrier. Full contact, right around. And the air doesn't know a thing about it. I often bring attention to this moment I had in my training when I was in my first decade of training. And it was at Oryoki, and I knocked over the soy sauce, and there was a black robe monastic sitting next to me, the priest, and I was mortified, felt terrible. I was such a klutz, and I was hoping to impress them, and now I'd failed utterly. And meanwhile, they just cleaned it up and just kept on with the Oryoki chant. But me, no, I carried that event around all day. How could I have? They'll never love me now. And then after 4 or 5 days of session, ironically and honestly, truthfully, this really did happen. I was sitting next to a different, I think it was a different priest. Anyway, it was a black-robed person, so some priest. And the same silly thing happened again. I reached over and I knocked the soy sauce over again. But this time, I did what the monk had done before. I just grabbed the towel and cleaned it up and put it back and just kept right on going. And I didn't even notice it until much later. That's what a difference sesshin made in the mind stream of a 20-something-year-old. Being able to have the structure, the asceticism of letting go of my own picking and choosing all the time about the coarse things of the day and the schedule, and just follow and allow the samadhi to develop sufficiently, I experienced for myself clinging and the result suffering, and flowing and the resultant non-doing. I didn't in that moment decide to clean up the soy sauce better than I did last time because this time I'm on it. That's still way too much. That's just another story. In the eyes of the world, perhaps that's the preferable one and that's the successful one, but in the eyes of the Dharma, it's still just another story. I didn't know a thing about it. Just cleaned the soy sauce and kept the chant going and moved right along. Now, to be clear, I wasn't therefore living like that every moment of every day hence. I mean, But I tasted it, like for real. I really tasted it, like, oh, whoa, okay, wait a minute. Suffering, non-suffering. Knocking over the soy sauce is inevitable. That stuff like that is going to happen. That's a given. That doesn't mean something's wrong. It doesn't mean we need to change everything to conform so this never happens. No, actually we don't. It's not the point. It's what you do with it. Do you understand? Nobody can do that work for you. There is no quality of talk, however inspirational, that can actually unlock that experience inside you. The best that it can do is encourage you to realize that the true nature of your own mind is absolutely pure and luminous. Unstained, unstainable, empty. And that's the last element, space. On a traditional altar, it's manifested with the Buddha image. This perspective sees the non-self, the unborn quality of that gold, and of that iron, and of the hand, and of the eye that sees it, and of the ego that thinks this or that of it. So, when you encounter barriers and when you encounter edges, there can be an instinctive response to say it's the session's problem or that server's problem or the Tanto is being a jerk to me problem or the Roshi doesn't love me problem or whatever. Or my body is the problem or my mind is the problem or, I'm unlovable and now everyone knows it is the problem, whatever. It's not. It's really not. Don't play with the toys. That's all those are. They're toys. Believe me, there are so many really intelligent, loving, caring people in this room that have spent so much and are spending so much of their life energy to make this work for all of us. No one has a target on anyone's back. That's your own mind. And your job is to confront that. Everybody here is on exactly that same page. And the truth is that you can't touch one aspect of the mandala and not have it touch all aspects. We are all radiating our practice and our lives all over everybody and each other and ourselves. And that's what we're here to do. Use all the ingredients of your life to wake up. Switch the struggle bus for the wake up truck. Realize the wake up truck. The Supreme Way is not difficult. It just precludes picking and choosing. Without yearning, longing, or loathing, the way itself is perfectly apparent. You, dear one, are perfect and complete, lacking nothing. These are not empty words. The way is perfectly apparent, while even a hair's breadth difference separates heaven from earth. To see the way with your own eyes, quit agreeing and disagreeing. This battle of likes and dislikes, that is the disease of the mind. Don't be fooled into thinking the sum total of what you like and what you don't like is who you are. It is not who you are. Those are aspects of your life, I agree, but that's not who you are. There's something much deeper than that. You need to see that yourself. Misunderstanding the great mystery, people labor in vain for peace. If I only had enough gold, if I could only rub all the rust away. The mind has the totality of space. Nothing lacking, nothing extra. This means you. You have the totality of space. Nothing lacking, nothing extra. It's just this selecting and rejecting that makes it seem otherwise. Please, dear one, don't be fooled. Use this time, use it well. Just simply notice what rises. See it, acknowledge it, and then let it go. Without you knowing anything about it, everything will get done just right. For the sake of all beings throughout space and time, may it be so.
Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable.